Would you like to turn yourself into a horrifying clown? Hello everyone, my name is Marko Kožokar, I am an elite Envato author, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create a scary clown face in Photoshop. Don't forget that you can follow along the written version of this tutorial on Envato Tuts Plus. If you would like to get even more advanced version of this effect and only using a few clicks, let me show you the Envato Elements. Here you can get unlimited downloads of design assets, templates, fonts, and so much more. And you can cancel your subscription anytime. For creating the clown Photoshop effect with ease, just look for the clown Photoshop action. With this action, you simply open your photo, brush over your subject, and click play. The action will do all the work for you, leaving you a fully layered result that you can further customize. You will also find even 40 color looks that you can choose from. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you to subscribe to Envato Tuts Plus for more videos like this. Alright, so after you start the Photoshop, go to File, Open, select your photo, and choose Open. Now there are a couple of things that we need to check. Go to Image, Mode, and make sure that your photo is in the RGB color mode 8 bits channel. Check the image size from here. Your image size should be somewhere between 25 and 4500 pixels wide or high, so I slightly drop down the image size. Also make sure that your photo is the background layer, so it should be called background and have this little lock icon, and if it is not and you have something like this or anything else, just go to Layer, New, and choose Background from Layer. The first thing we need to do now is to select the subject in our photo and copy it to a separate layer. Go to Select, Subject, to get an automatic selection of the subject. You can correct the selection if needed by selecting the Quick Selection tool from here and using the Shift and Alt buttons to add or remove areas from the selection. Now go to Select, Modify, Smooth, and set the sample radius to 2 pixels. Then go to Select, Modify, Contract, and set the contract by to 1 pixel. And go to Select, Modify again, and this time choose Feather. Set the feather radius to 1 pixel. We have our selection ready, so press Ctrl J on your keyboard to create a new layer using the selection. And name this layer Subject. We are going to create a clown face now. Go to File, Open, select the texture from the attachment, and choose Open. Using the Move tool, click anywhere inside the canvas and drag this texture to our photo document. Now press Ctrl T on your keyboard and transform and position the texture to suit your subject face. Each part of the texture is a separate layer, so you can also transform and position each of these parts separately. Now select the texture folder Layer Mask, set the foreground color to black, choose the brush tool, pick a soft brush, and brush around the subject face to remove the texture that exceeds the face area. Also brush over the eyes area to reveal the eyes of the subject. I'll fasten the video here. Select the face layer, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Levels, and name it Face Brightness. Then press Ctrl Alt and G on your keyboard to create a clipping mask, and in the Properties panel, set the midtone input level to 0.60. Now we are going to blend the subject with the texture. Select the subject layer, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Black and White, and name this layer Subject Saturation. Press Ctrl Alt and G on your keyboard to create a clipping mask. Change the blending mode of this layer to color and set the opacity to 80%. Select the texture folder, go to File, Place Embedded, select the texture from the link and choose Place. Then transform and position the texture to fit the canvas. Change the blending mode of this layer to soft light, set the opacity to 50%, and name it Subject Texture 1. Then, double-click on this layer thumbnail, and here in the newly opened window, press Ctrl-Shift-U to desaturate this layer, and Ctrl-S to save the changes. You can then close this file. Now Ctrl-click on the subject layer thumbnail to make a selection of this layer, and go to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection, to add a layer mask that will reveal this layer over the subject area only. Right-click on this layer and choose Blending Options. Then, Alt-click on the slider to split it up, and drag the right half of the slider to the top right. Now select the texture folder, press Ctrl-Shift-N on your keyboard to create a new layer, and name it Subject Texture 2. Then, press D on your keyboard to reset the swatches, and go to Filter, Render, Clouds, and Filter, Render, Difference Clouds. Go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and set the highlight input level to 75. Alt-click on the layer mask of this layer and drag it over the Subject Texture 2 layer to add it. Then, change the blending mode of this layer to soft light and drop the opacity to 10%. Now we are going to change the subject hair color. Select the Subject Saturation layer, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue and Saturation, and name this layer Hair Color. Press Ctrl Alt and G on your keyboard to create a clipping mask, and in the Properties panel, check the Colorize option and set the saturation to 50. While you have the layer mask selected, press Ctrl I on your keyboard to invert it. Set the foreground color to white, choose the brush tool, pick a soft brush, and brush over the subject hair to change its color. I'll again fasten the video here. Alright, so I have just finished, and all we have to do now is to change the blending mode of this layer to color. Now we are going to change the subject eyes color. Select the texture folder, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue and Saturation, and name it Eyes Color. Here in the Properties panel, check the Colorize option and set the saturation to 50. While the layer mask is selected, press Ctrl I on your keyboard to invert it. Then, set the foreground color to white, choose the brush tool, pick a soft brush, and brush over the subject eye's pupils. Right-click on this layer and choose Blending Options. Select and check the Inner Glow effect and enter these settings. You can also check out these settings in the written version of this tutorial on Envato Tuts Plus. Now we are going to darken the area around the eyes. So select the Texture folder, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue and Saturation, and name this layer Eyes Darkening. In the Properties panel, set the lightness to -30. With the layer mask selected, press Ctrl I on your keyboard to invert it. Set the foreground color to white, choose the brush tool, pick a soft brush, and brush to darken the area around the eyes. Like this. Now we need to remove the darkening over the eyes so it is visible only around them. To do so, we can use this layer mask. Control-click on it to make a selection, press Ctrl-Shift and I on your keyboard to inverse the selection, and using the lasso tool and Alt key, remove everything from the selection except the eyes area. Now set the foreground color to black and brush over the selection. Press Ctrl-D to deselect the selection. Change the blending mode of this layer to multiply and set the opacity to 80%. Now we are going to create the vignette effect. Select the Subject Texture 1 layer, press Ctrl-Shift and N on your keyboard to create a new layer and name it Vignette. Press D to reset the swatches, go to Edit, Fill, and use these settings. Press Ctrl-A on your keyboard to make a selection of the canvas, choose the rectangular Mark U tool, right-click anywhere inside the selection, and choose Transform Selection. Set the width and height to 85%. Then, go to Layer, Layer Mask, Hide Selection to hide selected area of the layer. Now go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and set the radius to 200 pixels. Then, change the opacity of this layer to 50%. We are going to make the final adjustments to this scary clown effect now. Right-click on the Face Brightness layer and choose Blending Options. Alt-click on the slider to split it up and drag the right half to the top right. Select the Vignette layer, go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Curves, and name it Color Look. In the Properties panel, enter these settings. Press D on your keyboard to reset the swatches, X to switch them, and go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Gradient Map, and name it Overall Contrast. Change the blending mode of this layer to Soft Light, and set the opacity to 20%. Go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Levels, name this layer Overall Brightness, and in the Properties panel, set the Highlight Input level to 250. Now go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Vibrance, and name this layer Overall Vibrance and Saturation. Then, in the Properties panel, set the Vibrance to 20 and Saturation to 15. To add sharpening to the effect, press Ctrl, Alt, Shift and D keys on your keyboard to make a screenshot. Then press Ctrl, Shift, U to desaturate this layer. Go to Filter, Other, High Pass, and set the radius to 2 pixels. Change the blending mode of this layer to Hard Light, and name it Overall Sharpening. Here is our final result. I hope you understood everything. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Marco and thank you for watching.